Welcome to Good Morning Football. So much to get to. We have headlines, news, 8 days away from the NFL draft in Cleveland, Ohio. That kicks off on April 29th. And we're live here together at the breakfast table in New York City on this April 21st. My name is Kay Adams, Nate Burleson, Peter Schrager, Kyle Brandt, all here. And there was news yesterday that was bigger than football. It was an emotional day around the United States, around the world. So we're going to start our show by tossing it over to Will Selva to set the table for us this morning. Good morning, Will.
All right, good morning, Kay and guys. And as you mentioned, Tuesday was an emotionally charged day for everyone. The NFL, like the rest of the world, reacting as former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was convicted on all counts of murder and manslaughter in the death of George Floyd. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell releasing the following statement, quote, "Today's outcome in the Derek Chauvin trial in Minneapolis does not undo the loss of life. Mr. Floyd could be here with us today. Our hearts remain with the Floyd family, and we understand the pain, anger, and frustration does not go away even when justice is delivered. Importantly, even as we identify reasons for hope, we must continue to help move our society toward a more equal and just tomorrow. We are proud to partner with NFL players and clubs and remain committed to do the important work needed to make positive change in our society." The NFLPA also saying in a statement, today's verdict is an encouraging step in the right direction for our country following the senseless murder of George Floyd, and our heart goes out to his family and all the families who seek justice. However, there is still much work to be done. We will continue fighting for equity and meaningful change through our social justice task force, the Alliance for Criminal Justice Reform, and by supporting the grassroots efforts of our player members within their communities. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. And there were a lot of reactions throughout the league from teams and players. And Kay, guys, universally, the message is, while this was something that was expected and hoped for, there's still a lot of work to be done ahead.
A step in the right direction, if you will. Thank you so much, Selva. We appreciate you. We'll talk to you throughout the days. There's lots of news shaking from the NFL world, but we'll stick with this. And there has been an outpouring from NFL players. We'll bring you all of that during our show right here on Good Morning Football. Nate, your reaction when you heard the verdict come down?
It was a representation of what we expected so many other times. It's tough for me to have faith in a system that have failed individuals that look like me. Yesterday, for him to be guilty of the murder on all 3 counts, I was happy for the family, but I was also sad for the times that individuals weren't held accountable. I know this seems like a moment to celebrate, but in the African-American community, it's hard to celebrate somebody being found guilty because of death, because we have seen death so many times. I would like to take this time to say thank you to those who hit the streets and protested and fought the good fight. White, black, every color in between, old, young, those that used their voice that didn't have to. Athletes who said, you know what, forget about my sponsors, forget about what the team is saying, forget about me clearing it with the media department. Let me stand up and use my platform to speak on what's right. Collectively, as a country, we saw tragedy this past year. That was something that we've seen before. So as an athlete that also went out there and saw people that didn't look like me, saw little white kids, little Asian kids, Indian kids, out there fighting a good fight, that was what's important. So I just say thank you, because I feel like that was a catalyst for change in this country. This is just the beginning. And I just feel like accountability should be something that we hold each other to. Regardless if you have a badge on or if you're just a regular person walking down the street. And if we continue to hold each other accountable, I know that we can be a better country.
It's well said. I felt relief yesterday, and unfortunately I felt some surprise. I was very, very anxious that he was going to get off. And you might think, you know, especially if you're a young person, oh, come on. How could you? Well, we've seen it before. We've seen it. We've all seen it our whole lives. There's been many times. I don't even need to name them. You hear those words, not guilty. So I was very relieved, not happy, but relieved. And I also think in a way it's really frustrating because if not for a 17-year-old capturing that on her phone, I don't know if we get that verdict yesterday. In fact, I think we don't get it. And so when we're back here again, which we will be, what if there is no video? Then where does it go? I don't know. So relieved, hugely so, but also a little bit frustrated and not celebratory because it still feels really, really heavy.
Yeah, that 17-year-old's name is Darnella Frazier. Her name should be known. It should be known and be sung because she's an angel to actually take out her phone, film it at 17, and go to the authorities with it. You realize she was on testimony, and she says she lays up every night apologizing to George Floyd that she didn't do more. And that breaks my heart. A 17-year-old girl filming this, making the world know, causing a world movement and exposing something, and then she's feeling guilt this morning. So to her, if she's up, you should not feel any guilt. You did an incredible act, and that act should be recognized for courage, not for anything else other than that. Nate mentioned people being in the streets. I live a block from the Barclays Center, where every day for 3 weeks there were people protesting, and it wasn't a scene of violence. It wasn't a scene of acrimony. It was very, very peaceful. And to Nate's point, it was not just people of color out there who have been through this with their families or have history. It was, you saw people coming in from the suburbs, white people from the suburbs, African-American people from driving 3 hours so that they could be a part of this. So I felt like this country, this summer, there was a movement. And in this moment, to your point, Kyle, we've seen it go a lot of different ways. And Nate, you mentioned this. I think that movement this summer, like, it opened eyes and it made the last couple weeks of this trial so important, so relevant, and yet I feel like this is just one case in one window, and now is where the work begins. And it can't just be, hey, summer 2020, there were some really good moments, and we really came together as a country, and Instagram really captured all of it. No, we have to start now, and we need to make sure that there is justice for all, and that we can all walk the streets, and hopefully in the next generation, and Darnella Frazier's generation, who's 17 years old and is waking up this morning, hopefully everybody could feel the same sort of safety that I, as a white male in my 40s, can feel walking down the street.
Yeah, I feel like everything that happened over the summer with the peaceful protests, the protesting, it made me, I think it made everyone just take a look at where we are and where we aren't, just as a society, even within the NFL walls, without of them. Things like Inspire Change, things like conversations that we've had, panels that we've had, even here on the network. And you, Nate, you come to the table and you keep it 100% real with us always. You and your family, part of those protests and keeping it real and sort of involving us in it. It's a conversation. Is it done? No. Change takes time. Change happens over time. But is it a step in the right direction? Yes. And it's one that will keep at the forefront to keep pushing that agenda forward. And it's one that's been front and center with the NFL. We have players, of course, chiming in. Everyone from Patrick Mahomes, I saw yesterday, Russell Wilson, I believe, also. It's a collective thing, and it's not black and white at this point as far as the results. So we've got Russell Wilson saying love wins, A.J. Brown accountable, really all across the NFL landscape. Mark Ingram saying justice. So we'll have all of that throughout the show, and it's something that we'll keep talking about.
And I know we want to get back to football. Can I say one last thing real quick? Oftentimes when a football player makes a mistake, it's hard for me to come on TV and be the football player that has to keep it real and say, you know what, that dude messed up. He shouldn't have did that. Should have paid more attention off the field or even on the field when he lost his cool. But I have to do that. That's my job, even if it feels awkward to me. The reason I say that is because I also have to shout out the police officers, the good ones. You know, the ones that don't get the credit because the bad apples always get the headlines. It was important for them to step up and even be involved in these protests and using their voice and making videos and saying how he was wrong for what he did to George Floyd, and even more recently saying there's a difference between grabbing your gun and a taser. Like, that's very important, and I get it. Oftentimes you want to protect your team, and you're part of one. But as I look into this camera, thank you to those police officers. And speaking for me personally, I know more great ones than I know bad ones. So thank you for those that wake up every day with integrity and look at the people that they protect and serve equally. You guys are the ones that are the true heroes.
I'll echo that. I live in a neighborhood where I know the police officers, and I'm not going to say the names of them.